Sawadee ka! Welcome to Hot Thai Kitchen. So the holiday season is approaching us again, and around this time I usually get questions, how can I incorporate some Thai flavors into the holiday table? And there really isn't like Thai dishes that's specific to the holidays. We just eat whatever, whenever. So I thought I would do a mashup of Thai flavors with a traditional holiday dish, namely pumpkin pie. So I thought that, there's a Thai dessert called Khanom Mok Gang, which is conceptually very similar to a pumpkin pie in that it is a custard and it usually has some mashed vegetable in it, like taro or mung beans. So I thought, I wonder if it will work with pumpkin instead and then baked into a form of a pumpkin pie. So I tried it out and my gosh, it works so incredibly well. I'm so happy to share this with you and it's really, really easy. All right, let's get started. So we're not going to go over how to make pie crust in this video because one, that's not really the point. Two, I already have a pie crust video, which I will link to. It's a really easy one that you can use with this recipe. And three, you can use this filling with any kind of pie crust that you already know how to make. Even store-bought ones would work. So I have one here that I have made, formed, chilled, and docked with a fork to prevent it from puffing up. And what we need to do first is blind bake it, which means par baking the pie crust so that it's half cooked before I put the filling in. Before I do that, I need to fill it with something heavy so that when you bake it, it doesn't shrink back. So what I have here is a piece of parchment paper, which I'm going to crumple up. I do this so that it will form a little bit more easily to the shape of the pie. And I put that in here. Okay, so now you can weigh it down with rice, beans, or they sell ceramic pie plates if you bake it a lot. But I've discovered that you can also use sugar because you can just reuse this sugar in whatever. If you use rice or beans, you can't cook that anymore. It's not good. And this just helps weigh down the crust. This is gonna go into a 375-degree oven for about 20 minutes until the edges look cooked but not yet browned. Oh, and bottom rack. All right, so while that's doing its thing, let's make the filling. So the thing that's gonna make this filling Thai is coconut, palm sugar, and pandan leaves. Surprise! Not really. Super classic Thai dessert ingredients. So I'm going to add some coconut milk into this pot here. And then what I'll do is I'll reduce this by half because I want to get as much coconut flavor in as I can without all the liquid, which will make the pie too runny. So I'm going to reduce this by half. While that's going, we're also going to add pandan leaves to infuse. So pandan leaves, today I've got a whole fresh bouquet to show you. Usually I use them frozen, but I just managed to get some fresh ones. These are pandan leaves and it's our version of vanilla basically. It's the aromatic herb that we add into so many desserts. Just about every dessert have some sort of like a pandan leaf. If you don't have it, you can substitute vanilla. I suppose it's not going to be the same. You can buy pandan extracts as well, which is not as good. So if you can find the actual leaf. I'm going to just cut this into little chunks. And as the coconut milk is reducing, it will just infuse the flavor into our mixture. Get that submerged. And so this will go for about 10 minutes. And then I do want it to be reduced exactly by half. Okay, so I think that's about half. I'm not sure. So what we have to do, and you really want to do this is not something you want to eyeball. You want to measure how much coconut milk you have left. If you have a little bit less, it's not a big deal. But if you have too much, then your filling will be too wet and it's not going to set up. Okay, so this is quite important. So I'm just going to pour it back into the measuring cup that I used earlier. Perfect. And then also the pandan leaves, they are done. So you don't need that anymore. That can go. Pour that back in. And now you can see it's like super thick and luscious. Okay, so now we're gonna just flavor this with some salt. Very, very important because we're all about balancing the sweetness, right? So stir that until it's dissolved and then canned pumpkin. So I'm gonna stick to tradition by using just good old store-bought canned pumpkin puree here. So that goes straight in and it'll help cool down our coconut milk too. So with this off heat now, I'm just using the pot as a mixing bowl at this point. I'm just gonna give this a good mix, cool it down before I add my eggs so I don't make pumpkin scrambled eggs. Okay. That smells so good. Oh no, I forgot to put my sugar in. You guys, what I was supposed to do. When it was still hot, I was supposed to put my palm sugar in, but I forgot. So we're gonna add it right now, but then I also wanna show you first how to chop it. So when you buy palm sugar, it'll most likely come in pucks like this. And to deal with it, you just take a big chef's knife and you just shave it like it were a block of chocolate, just like this. I knew I was missing a step. That felt a little bit like, this went really quick. Sugar. So you want to chop your sugar pretty finely now that this isn't going to be as hot anymore. But if it was hot, you don't have to chop it that very finely. So, troubleshooting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just dissolve the sugar in just a little bit of this mixture so I don't have to heat up the whole thing, and then it'll take us that much longer to cool it down for the egg. So I'll just pop in, the sugar just needs a little bit of liquid to help get it going. See? Improvise. Then all your sugar goes in, and it looks like a lot of sugar, but you guys, we're making dessert. Of course it's a lot of sugar. And then you just want to heat this until the sugar is completely dissolved, and then add that to the filling. But again, I want to stress that if you were doing this correctly, you would add the sugar to the coconut milk, let it melt, and then add the pumpkin, okay? And it does go pretty quickly, and once it starts to soften, you can just go in and mash them with your spatula too. That's all dissolved. Heat off, and I'm just gonna pour this back into my filling. Crisis over. See, what tipped me off was the color. I added the pumpkin and I was like, the color doesn't look as dark as it should. So I've got 3 eggs here, which I'm gonna just beat just slightly before adding. And that is it. Believe it or not, the filling is done. Okay, so the crust has been par baked, and as you can see here, the edge is a little bit golden, which is probably more than you want to let it go. It doesn't have to be this golden, but Adam and I got carried away watching Khan's video, so don't do that. I'm gonna remove this sugar now. And you want to make sure your parchment is big enough so that you can lift it with no problem. Just put it in a bowl, let that cool, put it back in your sugar jar, reuse it as usual. Okay, so now this is a little bit wet, as you can see. I'm going to just stick this back into the oven for like 3 to 5 minutes, just so it's dry, and then it's done. So here's the pie crust, and the filling just goes in, and you should have just the perfect amount for one pie. Now, I see just some streaks of unevenness. I don't know what that is, but I'm just gonna use my mini whisk to just mix that in. I'm just looking for an excuse to use my mini whisk at some point in this recipe. They make great Christmas stocking stuffers. So I have turned the oven down to 350 after I've baked the crust, and now this is gonna go and bake for about an hour. Give or take 5 minutes, depending on your oven or how cold or warm the filling is going in, but it's gonna take quite a bit of time. So I'll see you then. It looks amazing! It should sort of jiggle a little in the middle. It shouldn't look like it's completely liquid inside, obviously, but it does have a bit of a jiggle. And that's totally fine. If you have an instant read thermometer, which I highly recommend that you use, you can stick it smack in the middle, and the temperature you're going for is 170 Fahrenheit. Usually that's what I do at home, but I forgot to bring it. I should just leave one here. And then the benefit of using glass pie plate is you can also look on the bottom to see whether it's golden, which it should be. Ow, ow! Hot. But you know, if it's not quite golden enough, it's still a little bit soggy, you can stick it back in the oven for a little bit. You have to wait for, I would say, at least 2 hours. So at least until it comes to room temperature before cutting into it, because right now it's too soft, too warm. It will deflate a little bit, totally normal. It might even crack a little bit once it's deflated, totally normal. Don't worry about it. We're gonna cover it up with some garnishes on top anyway. I should also point out that you should absolutely put the pie on a sheet pan in the oven. Don't just put the pie directly on the rack, because especially if you have a really buttery crust that comes around the edges, some butter will melt and sort of overflow out onto the sheet pan. As you can see here, I've got some melted butter here. This crust recipe has so much butter in it, so there's a lot of butter. If you're using a different recipe with less butter, this may not happen, but it's always safe to put it on a sheet pan. So while the oven is still hot from the pie, don't turn it off quite yet. I'm going to toast some coconut to go on top. Now you don't have to use this shape of coconut, so I'm using like these big flakes, but I feel like this shape is the prettiest. But you can like top it with nuts or, you know, or extra pie crust that you cut and put on top. But I really feel like the coconut flavor in the pie is well accentuated by the flavor of the coconut. So from a flavor standpoint, I really recommend coconut, and we're going to toast it quite dark, just in the same oven at 350 that it was before, and it will take just a few minutes. Nice. Yeah, that's the smell I'm going for. And this may be a little darker than some of you are familiar with. I feel like in Western baking, they like to do these light blonde coconut. No, but you want to toast it a little bit darker. You can even go a touch darker than this to really get that toasted flavor. And when you smell it, you'll be like, okay, that's what we're talking about. So now I'm just gonna let this cool, sprinkle it on top of the pie. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention my little donut trick here. For things like this where they brown easily, if you make a hole in the middle, it'll help it cook evenly, because usually it's the patch in the middle that's less cooked than the other part. This way you don't have to go back and stir it. And there's my oven going off. Look at this. It looks so perfect. We're rushing it a little bit. It probably needs a little bit more time, but hey, I got a baby to go home to, so we're gonna get through this. So the coconut, as you can see, is like the same color as the pie. So if I put it on top, it's not gonna stand out as much. So the dilemma is if it's light, then it's not as tasty, but if it's dark, then it's the same color. So I'm going to add some untoasted coconut so that now it's sort of like a festive mix. So you get a little bit of both. So what I like to do is just put a bunch in the center and then sort of put less around the edges. Yeah, I think that looks good. You don't have to be precise. Just individually place each one at the optimal location, and then you're good to go. Super easy. Ta-da! Look at that. How festive and pretty and different does that look? And also this way it tells people that there is coconut inside. Here we go, moment of truth. Hopefully this is set enough. Okay, yes. Oh, look at that flaky crust. Problem with all these garnishings is it makes it harder to cut, but that's okay. Ta-da! Oh, look, it's perfect! Perfect creamy texture. There we go. Ah. Yeah, look at that. I cannot wait. This is my lunch. Oh, look at that. I'm gonna steal some coconut. Oh my god, that smell. It's so unmistakably Thai. Like the combination of coconut and palm sugar, it's like, and pandan leaves. I smell that and I think, oh, is this kind of makgeang? No, it's pumpkin pie. Oh no, actually, it's a little bit of both. Oh, it's so good. So good. Just sweet enough. That coconut flavor, it's rich, it's creamy, it's custardy, it's quite tender. It's not like, you know, sometimes you get pie from grocery store and it's really solid. This one is smooth and silky and just barely holding together. Wow. I think this is a perfect dessert if you still want tradition, but something also a little different, so it's not the same old every year. It still reads as a pumpkin pie. Like you still feel like you're having your pumpkin pie, but the flavor is unique enough that this becomes something different and interesting. So the recipe, as always, will be on hubthaikitchen.com, and if you make it, send me a photo on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And if you haven't subscribed to the show, make sure you do so you don't miss a recipe like this. And click the bell icon as well so you get a notification when I post a new video. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time for your next delicious Thai meal. Wait, I want Adam to try it. Will you eat it? Adam's on a diet, but will you eat it?
I will sacrifice for the show.
Yes. Okay. I get you a bite. Adam's on a gluten-free diet, but not anymore.
Oh my god, that's so satisfying.
Isn't it good?
Oh my god. More.
More!